We are live. We are live. The merger is inching ever closer. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this show with a donation, hit the $sign when you make a comment, and we'll get to your comment as soon as possible. Welcome in to the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend. With your phone calls, in your comments, in the chat room. Man, have we been busy, and we're going to be busy. We're going to be busy for months here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Thank you for all coming in. It's a PATC breakfast. Get your coffee, get your tea, get your eggs and sausage. Welcome on in. Breaking news. Oregon State and Washington State, they are making plans. They're going to go 2 years as a quasi Pac-2 school. But in reality, when it comes to the College Football Playoff Committee, they're going to be two schools, independent two schools. They're not going to be... Now, not all of this is official, okay? We're starting at this starting point. It looks like that Washington State and Oregon State are going to be quasi Pac-2 members of of a conference that doesn't really exist. They're really independent schools. I believe they're going to get autonomy conference payouts for the playoffs for the next 2 years at least. They're going to be setting up a schedule with the Mountain West teams. We're going to be going through that in an article by Ross Dellenger of Yahoo Sports, who along with The Athletic broke this news this morning. And it looks like in 2 years, in 2026, oh, that 2026 keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. The 2026 gold rush. We've coined it when we started this YouTube channel in 2022. 2026, circle that year. A year of incredible change. We already have so much change going on. It looks like there's going to be a merger between Washington State and Oregon State and the Mountain West schools. It's inching ever closer. A couple things before we go to the article. Number one, there've already been some blowback on Twitter. Well, Washington State and Oregon State, they can't do this. They can't even plan for this. They can't. The ruling, yes, they won the ruling, but they cannot do anything that would damage the future of the other Pac-10 schools as they go on to their other conferences. I would disagree. Of course they have to plan. They have to chart their future. They have to. I think there's going to be some sort of settlement now between those 12 schools, between the Pac-2 and the so-called Pac-10. The leverage right now is with Oregon State and Washington State. If they go over a certain point, yes. And then, of course, it's going to go possibly to the Supreme Court in Washington, the state court in Washington. But that's the great unknown as well. I think we're going to get some sort of settlement, but Oregon State and Washington State are going to come out a little bit ahead versus the even distribution of all the assets that are coming to the conference. They're going to come out ahead on this. And we talked about it yesterday. I believe now they have leverage. At least they have some leverage. More leverage now than they did a week ago, a month ago. Definitely 2 months ago. And now the plans are being made. In this article that we're about to go through, Mountain West Conference, they met yesterday, Wednesday. Cloak and dagger. Gloria Navarez, the Mountain West Commissioner. She's been patient. She's been lining this up. Cloak and dagger. So that's the first thing I want to talk about before we get to the article. The other thing, is we've been looking at this a lot from the Oregon State, Washington State perspective. Naturally, right? They're the two teams that got left out of this realignment wave. There are the two teams that did not get to go to a Autonomy 4 conference. The ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the SEC. But we have to start looking at this from the perspective of the 12 Mountain West schools. If things go down the way we think it's going to go down, those 12 Mountain West schools, they're going to be elevated. They're going to be elevated by a little bit more money. Possibly. It's hard to know at this point. A little bit more exposure. It looks like I would put my chips in the middle of the table that the branding of this new conference in 2026, the G5 conference, is probably going to be Pac something. They're going to keep the Pac name, I believe. a reverse merger, a remerger. Now this from the very beginning, this is what we thought was going to happen among all the other options. We kept saying this was this chalk, and it looks like it's going to happen. And there's one really interesting part in this article, and it's the PATC money shot of the article, where the Mountain West schools are making sure that they're protecting themselves. The lower bottom of the Mountain West schools. Well, whatever schools you want to determine are the bottom half of the Mountain West, they put a protection in there. Very, very interesting. They put a protection in there. Not only are the Mountain West schools making sure that if they do this, if they do the 2-year scheduling with Oregon State, Washington State, not only are they making sure there's a long-term commitment from Oregon State and Washington State, they are doing the best they can to ensure the bottom half of the Mountain West schools that there's also a commitment that there will not be a Frankenstein conference made. Now, as we go through this article, it doesn't totally eliminate the possibility of a Frankenstein G5 conference where it's Oregon State, Washington State, the top brands of Mountain West, maybe a few top brands of the AAC. It doesn't eliminate that totally. But there is a penalty in there if it does happen. One of the many reasons we had to do a live show this morning, breakfast time at PATC. Always keep your head on a swivel. If you're new to this channel, you have to subscribe and you have to notify. Hit the notification bell because we can come up at live anytime during the day. We can come up twice, 3 times. So you have to hit the notification bell. Make sure you get notified. I cannot promise when we're coming up next. We could end this live show right now and I could be coming up 5 minutes from now. We are not ending the live show right now. We've only just begun. And I want to touch upon in this monologue Mike Guslowich, the North Carolina UNC, the chancellor of UNC, in this percolation of he possibly looks like he's the front runner to become the next president of Michigan State. And I just want to bring you back just for a moment back into the Holy Smokes Theater. We're going to take a trip down memory lane. Because there might be, it confirms something that we have, that we have talked about. Just between you and me and you about UNC. So we're going to do that as well. And anything else that comes up, breaking news here in the morning of November 16th. First of all, I want to thank people that have come in early this morning, very early for a PATC breakfast. Randy Taylor, thanks for coming on in. AMAC, John Teal, I say they steal North Texas in UTSA next. That's a good 16 teams. Thanks, John, for coming on in. I appreciate it, sir. Matt Neeson, good morning, Greg. Good morning to you, Matt. Don in Kansas. Greg is hitting it early today. Yes, we are. Randy Taylor says, smash the like button. Jay Perlmutter, good morning, PATC community. Mr. Bruin is in the house. Mr. Bruin, Jay, he might be losing their head football coach at the end of this weekend. if that happens, there's a couple names, surprise names, I think, for most people that I'm going to be bringing up. But anyways, we'll get to that when that becomes a big time story, and it just might here in a few days. Bill G's in the house. Thanks for coming on in. PSU Nitwit, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Expedition Greg, Hagen, Mick Stevens. They should add New Mexico State and UTEP. Well, they already got New Mexico. So I don't think New Mexico State would be a value add. They've got a very intense basketball fan base. The football fan base is being awoken by Jerry Kill. And Jerry Kill, this is not the first time old man, country boy Jerry Kill has done that to a fan base. He did it at Minnesota. He's done it everywhere he's been. Jerry Kill, New Mexico State, don't think they will be. I think New Mexico State's in a pretty good spot in Conference USA. Thanks for coming on in, Coy. Appreciate it. Wayne Russell, my phone isn't awake. You're going live, and my phone says this was 13 hours ago. I might have been on live 13 hours ago. I don't even remember. I don't even remember. Mike Smith, appreciate you coming on in. Tulane and Memphis as possible ads. Stephen McNeely, the notification bell was my alarm this morning. Oh my God! Twisted Mind, DM, morning. This should be interesting. It would at least be the best G5, so a college football playoff berth. I agree. I mean, if you're talking about, look, there's, again, this, thanks for that comment, Twisted Mind. Yeah, I mean, I am such a believer, and I know there's so many people who disagree with me, and that's fine. Lay it on me. Lace me in the chat room. Lace me in the phone calls. Be nice about it, but go after me. Say, Greg, you are wrong. But man, I am so in support of this 12-team expansion playoff with the G5 getting a berth. The best G5 conference. Highest ranked G5 conference champion. Let me put it that way. Highest ranked G5 champion. Whoever wins the conference championship games in the G5 and the 5 G5 conference championship games, whatever's the highest ranked team gets an automatic berth. And potentially, not much of a chance, but potentially get one of the top 4 spots to get a first round bye in the playoffs. This is just another. We've gone through all the reasons why that is fantastic for the sport. It increases the value of the G5 conferences. It increases the value of the championship game. It gives, possibly higher sponsorship, higher eyeballs, because Power 5 conference fan bases are going to be watching more of the G5. The race to the top of the G5 conferences. And again, G5 conferences are going to be competing against each other even more heavily than they already do. Mountain West, this is a great day for them. Look, although it's not official yet, I get it, but we're inching closer. This is what we suspected to happen here at Peek Around the Corner. I mean, just take a look here, and I'll get to the Ross Dellenger article. You know how it is. Twisted Mind put up a great comment. It's got my juices flowing. Let's take a look at this real quick. This is the Mountain West Conference. Football, records, whatever, this year. if this merger happens, I mean, all these schools get elevated. I don't know how much, but it's going to be these schools, I want to say it's going to be an elevated Mountain West Conference, but it's probably not going to be the Mountain West Conference in brand. It's probably going to be the Pac whatever, Pac 14, whatever they call it. San Diego State. Now, San Diego State has been at the top of this conference when it comes to value. They were trying to get into the Pac-12. So this isn't quite the dream scenario of San Diego State. Okay? This is not quite the dream scenario of San Diego State. This isn't quite the dream scenario of the Fresno State Bulldogs. Okay? This isn't like the possibility of Fresno State getting in the Big 12, what their president, athletic director discussed earlier this year. You know, there's been some talk of Colorado State possibly getting in around the back window into the Pac-12 or the Big 12. Okay, so this might not be Colorado State's dream scenario. But overall, I mean, Boise State just was never going to be able to get into the Pac-12. Was always a long shot to get into the Big 12. Wyoming Cowboys, this is their dream scenario. Utah State, this is their dream scenario. Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, this is their dream scenario. Nevada Wolfpack, this is their dream scenario. New Mexico Lobos, this is their dream scenario. At least San Jose State, at least half of the schools, I would say more than half, but whatever, half the schools, it could, if when this merger happens, where we have an elevated G5 conference, it's not going to be an autonomy conference. This is going to be an elevated G5 conference, right in line or higher than the AAC. Now Sun Belt is coming on strong. Conference USA and the MAC, they got more challenges in front of them. Sun Belt is moving on up, no question about it. But this is going to be an elevated G5. These schools are going to be sitting in a pretty position to get the automatic berth into the college football playoffs. So I wanted to hit on that. Great comment. Great comment by, I already forgot the name. I'm sorry, sir. Twisted Mind. Thank you, Twisted Mind. Appreciate it. John Till, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Just the pack, for the love of God. No numbers, please. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what that brand name is. What is it going to be Pac 14? Is it just going to be Pac? I think Pac has to be included somewhere in it. Right? Big Pac, the Big Pac. Oh my God! Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity to the show. Thank you so very much. So let me get to the article. Want to get to the article. Big news. Big news. Nothing official, of course, but the train is on the track. We're going in a certain direction. This is what we predicted here at Peek Around the Corner. It was going to be a Mountain West, Pac-2 merger, reverse merger back into the Pac-12. Let's get to the article. Then I want to get to Mike Gusowich. I want to talk about North Carolina. We'll get to that in a second. So let's get to your article. And I'll get back to your comments as soon as possible. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. It's already been a crazy morning. A lot of things going on. We're only this live show. We could possibly have another one later on today. A lot of things happening. Okay, Oregon State, Washington State moving forward with future plans after victory in the court. Ross Dellenger this morning. Days after, now there is a PATC money shot that I talked about earlier in this monologue that is very interesting to me. It shows that Gloria Nevarez is on top of it. It shows that Gloria Nevarez and these two, Oregon State and Washington State, have gone into deep talks about this. We'll get to that later on in the article. Days after the victory in court, Oregon State and Washington State, the two remaining members of the Pac-12, are moving forward with future plans. The schools have re-engaged with the Mountain West officials over a 2-year football scheduling alliance with the league, an agreement that may serve as the first step in a long-term partnership or even merger, sources tell Yahoo Sports. And I think merger is the heavy chalk. I don't think the Mountain West schools are getting into this without merger being upfront, being the heavy chalk. Mountain West administrators held calls Wednesday to further discuss the details. More meetings are planned Thursday, today. You see, it's inertia. You get the ball rolling, you don't want the ball to stop rolling, you keep pushing it, eventually it goes downhill, inertia takes over, including the gathering of league presidents to presumably grant Commissioner Gloria Nevarez permission to proceed with negotiations. In other words, Gloria Nevarez and the staff have been able to give enough information to the Mountain West presidents to say, yes, we've got traction, this is good for us, I need your permission to go all out on negotiations. And the presidents have granted her, the commissioner, the ability to do so. The two sides, the Pac-2 and the Mountain West, are believed to be close to an agreement over terms. But a deal is not complete and may not be finalized for several days. Well, several days, I mean, not too long from now. They're getting close. However, models for a potential scheduling alliance were developed and socialized over the last 2 months as Nevarez and her staff prepared for this possibility. Yahoo Sports reported about the proposals in a story last month. Though there are many scheduling models, the most likely is what's termed a 7+1 format, where Mountain West teams play 7 conference games, not 8. They go to 7. They eliminate one of their conference games. They keep their non-conference schedule. They don't want to have to, some of those non-conference scheduled games they're money games against Power 5 conference schools. And it's just easier this way to eliminate a conference game. So it's 7+1, add in the Oregon State, Washington State game. They would rotate the game against either Oregon State or Washington State, home and away, over the 2-year cycle. Games against Oregon State, Washington State are not expected to count toward the league standings. The two Pac-12 members will not be eligible for the Mountain West Conference Championship and will compete as quasi-independents under the Pac-12 banner. And they will not be recognized as potential conference champions under the College Football Playoff Committee in the expanded playoff format starting next year. Those Mountain West schools with previously scheduled non-conference games against one of the two schools will play the other as well during the same season. For instance, the San Diego State has games scheduled against Washington State at home in 2024 and on the road in 2025. In the model, the Aztecs would likely play Oregon State both years as well. 3 more schools would play 2 games against the Pac-12 duo in a single season because they have previously scheduled games, including Boise State. They've already scheduled an Oregon State game. Fresno State, they had already scheduled an Oregon State game. In San Jose State which had already scheduled a Washington State game. Now, here is the PATC money shot of the article. The agreement expected to include a lucrative financial package for the Mountain West members is likely to feature a long-term commitment to the conference with an intent at a full merger beyond this 2-year cycle. Now, here it is. Here is the money shot. Part of the agreement includes a financial penalty that can be levied upon Oregon State and Washington State if the two programs attempt to acquire only a portion of the Mountain West Conference schools in the future. So in other words, Gloria Navarez working for all of her schools in the Mountain West have given an incentive to Oregon State and Washington State not to attempt to create a Frankenstein conference that would only take some of the Mountain West schools and then search elsewhere, like the AAC, to grab on to some other schools. Now, this does not eliminate the possibility that Oregon State and Washington State will attempt or might be able to successfully create a Frankenstein G5 conference. But it makes it a lot less, that Frankenstein conference would have to bring in a whole lot more money to Washington State and Oregon State to make it worthwhile for the Cougars and the Beavers. So Gloria Navarez, she protected the lower half of the schools in the conference, the lower valued schools. So they've been working on this. This gives the Gloria Navarez the ability to negotiate with the full confidence of all the schools in the conference. They are aligned, right? As for the broadcasting rights, the Mountain West home games against Oregon State and Washington State will be televised in a regular fashion by Mountain West Conference TV partners Fox and CBS Sports Network. The league expects to receive extra media rights revenue from those games to be distributed across the country. This is so very important for a couple reasons. Oregon State and Washington State will be televised in regular fashion. So just the same as the other Mountain West schools, by the Mountain West TV partners, Fox and CBS Sports Network. But the league expects to receive extra media rights revenue from those games to be distributed across the country, so across the conference. So the talks have been with Fox and CBS Sports Network. Fox has told Oregon State, Washington State, have told Gloria Navarez, for those games that we carry, Washington State and Oregon State, we're going to give the conference extra money. And that extra money is going to go into the pot and then distributed per the bylaws of the Mountain West Conference, in which Oregon State and Washington State will now be slotted into that bylaw, the carve out a specific piece for those two schools. So those two schools will be part of Mountain West Conference payouts. So from that paragraph, we know that there's been discussions, agreements, basically, with the Mountain West media partners. And again, this benefits. Now, is it going to be a whole lot of money? No, of course not. Spread upon the other 12 schools, that little bit extra money that they're going to get for the Oregon State, Washington State games. No, it's not going to be a big windfall, but it's going to be just a little bit more. For now, Oregon State and Washington State are likely to negotiate separate broadcasting agreements with those networks and potentially others to televise their own home games. The Pac-12's TV deal with ESPN and Fox ends this academic year. For now, the scheduling alliance is football only. Oregon State and Washington State are in discussions with other leagues to create affiliate memberships for their other sports. This is another whole massive story. The alliance is only for football only. So in other words, the merger could be for only football only. Like Hawaii is only with Mountain West Conference football. Maybe, we'll get into that later. There's a lot in this article. I just want to focus on the potential merger. But with other sports, Oregon State and Washington State are in discussions. Now, will they come back and fold all the other sports in the Mountain West? Or in the future going to be called the Pac whatever? That's probably a strong possibility. And then the article goes on to about the two schools winning, at least for now, a victory in the Washington County Court. The decision, Cougars and Beavers may soon have access to millions of dollars. We know about the rest of the story. Very interesting. It's Gloria Nevarez. You can tell there's been long discussions about this potential of a reverse merger. A couple years down the road, Oregon State and Washington State are going to get their own separate TV deal for their home games, but their away games, playing football games with the other going to other Mountain West schools in this alliance, the money that the Mountain West schools get will be elevated just a bit. They'll be getting more revenue that way. This is a big deal. If the full merger happens officially for 2026, this is a big deal especially for the 12 Mountain West Conference football schools. And we've gone over them before, right here. A lot of those schools, ladies and gentlemen, this is their dream scenario of an elevated G5 conference. San Jose State, Wyoming Cowboys, Utah State Aggies, Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, Nevada Wolfpack, New Mexico Lobos. For the other schools, they might have dreams of a Power 5 invite or a different elevated G5 conference. But for at least half of the schools in the conference, this is their dream scenario. Because if it happens, if it goes down in 2026, a football merger, great news for those 12 universities. Now, before I get into comments, John Teal, she's so much better than George Kliakov. Thank you, John Teal, for your super chat. I appreciate it. George Kliakov had a pretty bad hand to play at the poker table. He had a pretty bad hand to play, but he played his bad hand very poorly. Let's put it that way. We've been through that before. I think Gloria Nevarez is playing a totally different game here, and it looks like she's been very proactive in her discussions. Okay, I want to get this one more item before we get to your comments and phone calls. Just give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Wanted to bring up this. UNC chancellor is weighing departure for Michigan State University. Kevin Gusowich said Thursday he is weighing the opportunity to depart from Michigan State University. So he has said this today. This story was out in public yesterday and I believe the day before. And we have talked in the days when that masked man ran into the Holy Smokes Theater and dropped off a pair of hockey skates next to Tony Petiti. It was a masked man, okay? Remember that? People remember that? Well, I'll get back to that. Just let me go through. It's not much of an article. It's basically UNC Chancellor Kevin Gusowich said Thursday he's weighing the opportunity to depart from Michigan State. Gusowich sent a statement Thursday to WRAL News. I'm focused on serving University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, a special place I have lived, worked, loved for 28 years. I'm very proud of what our university accomplishes every day as one of the best public universities in the country. Gusowich has served as chancellor since February 2019. Okay. I just wanted to put that up so everybody's on the same wavelength when it comes to those reports out. There was reports yesterday. Gusowich is confirming. It does not sound like any final decision has been made. It sounds like Gusowich is number one for Michigan State. But again, yeah, we don't know if he's made that final decision. When we talked about the Holy Smokes Theater about a month ago, I think more than a month ago now, about the hockey skates, UNC blue and white hockey skates being put down next to Tony Petiti, the masked man. That was Mike Gusowich. Allegedly. That was Mike Gusowich. So we talked about how I brought this up a few times, how North Carolina, from our perspective, was not aligned when it comes to what happens in the next wave of realignment. They were not aligned. We said it here. I think I was on that live show, but we said, the leadership, Big Ten, some parts of the donors, definitely Big Ten, definitely Big Ten, definitely Big Ten. And then some are in large part, in mass, they would love to push North Carolina into the SEC. North Carolina is not aligned. Now, Florida State and Clemson, as far as we know, Clemson will take either or. They don't care. Florida State might be a little bit different. But North Carolina, there's really strong opinions on both sides of the aisle when it comes to the next conference realignment. We know this. Everybody knows this. I mean, this is one of the reasons why Sankey finally ran into the theater. Now he's sitting next to Peter Collins at Florida State. There is sort of a battle for the heart and soul of what North Carolina is going to do next. Mike Gusowich is sort of the lightning rod of it all. I'm not going to go through it today, but you go through the history of the 4 years that Mike Gusowich has been there. The decisions he's made. Some people tried to oust him. I don't know what year it was. I think it was 2021. Some people tried to oust him on the board. Some of them said no, he stays. Gusowich made a policy on if your family makes such amount of money, I think it was $80,000 or less, whatever, and you qualify, you academically, you can get a scholar, you can, I don't know. I don't know the details. You can get more support to go to the University of North Carolina. Again, I don't know the details, but I know he's very polarizing, Kevin Gusowich. He's very polarizing as the chancellor of North Carolina. Now you say, Greg, a lot of presidents are polarizing. They have to make decisions. There's always fractures. I get it. But I'm bringing this up because it's related to the Holy Smokes Theater. Mike Gusowich would, if he had the total ability to do so, he would take North Carolina to the Big Ten when the opportunity appears. So would Bubba Cunningham. Others would not. And they're very strongly the other way to the SEC. That's why it's always so very difficult for us to talk about North Carolina in any clarity. I'm just bringing this up. It does not surprise us that Mike Gusowich would be very interested to be the next president at Michigan State. Not a shocker. Not at all. And then if he does take it, this is the important part. This is the peek around the corner that I want to give you all today. If he does take it, if Mike Gusowich, the UNC chancellor, North Carolina, if he does take the Michigan State job, then all eyes, all PATC community eyes have to be on, focused on who the replacement at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Who's going to be the next president there if Mike Gusowich leaves? I'm telling you, that is going to tell us so much about what's going to happen, the result of what's going to happen, where North Carolina ends up in 2027 or possibly 26. That next North Carolina president, because even and I'll go even a step further. Even if Mike Gusowich does not take the Michigan State job, I'm not sure he'll ever be in the position to really influence what happens at the University of North Carolina in a couple years ahead from now. So let's put it that way. All eyes have to be in North Carolina when it comes to who their next president's going to be if Mike Gusowich takes the Michigan State job now. And of course, it just so happens Michigan State's a Big Ten team. Oh, it just so happens Michigan State has a hockey program. So there it is. I just wanted to make sure that you all were kept up on what's going on at North Carolina and the importance of it all when it comes to the Holy Smokes Theater. We've been keeping an eye on it here at Peek Around the Corner. This was not the first time it was reported in public that Mike Gusowich was one of the leading candidates. It looks like the job is his if he wants it. Will he take it? We shall see. I think we're going to find out very, very quickly what's going to happen. Okay. Let me get back to your comments. And we'll get to your phone calls. Talking about whatever you want to talk about. Washington State and Oregon State. North Carolina situation. Doesn't David Shaw's son play for UCLA? I wonder. I don't know. I do not know. I think the UCLA Bruins, now everybody from this point forward, and they've been doing it for a long time, but all football programs, all athletic directors are going to have to listen to their money perch, to their money base. When they really have to now with NIL, revenue sharing, and UCLA wants somebody who can talk to their donors, who like talking to their donors, who enjoy talking to their donors, who wants to bring donors into their room, into their space. Chip Kelly didn't want to do any of that. I talked about it on Twitter a couple years ago, before I had a YouTube channel. So UCLA, David Shaw, probably, I don't think David Shaw is a candidate. Let's put it that way. UCLA wants somebody who can, this time, in this particular case, in this particular time, and I believe UCLA is going to want somebody who can win over the room. They need someone to win the press conference this time. A lot of times that's not important. But at UCLA, this particular time, when the donors have grown cold, they need somebody to win over the room at UCLA. They need someone to win the press conference. Thank you, John Teal, for your super chat. I appreciate it so very much. Okay, let me just open up the phone lines. If anybody wants to give us a call. Big stories already out this morning. Let me get the lines open first. 763-260-1333. Washington State and Oregon State. The line's open. Washington State and Oregon State inching closer to a full merger for the 2026 season. They're going to be spending the next 2 years as a quasi-independent programs, scheduling an alliance with the Mountain West, 7+1. Mountain West going to go from 8 conference games to 7. It looks like it's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. And is this going to upset the courts? Is this going to upset the last judge who presided over the hearing of what happens to the Pac-2 and the Pac-10? Look, they've got to start planning. They have to start acting. So this in itself, I don't think is going to upset the court. And I think a settlement's going to happen pretty soon for everybody involved. That's just my take on it. Kenneth Evans, Big 12 beat your amazing Big 10 champ. Yes, they did. It was a great game. Max Duggan was beautiful. Now, let's keep this in the context. Great, epic, historic year for TCU. But it also was the first playoff win of any Big 12 team. So, great achievement. But, it was one playoff win for the Big 12. Congratulations. After 7-8 years of football playoffs. Will they get more in the years ahead? Expanded conference, expanded playoffs. There's more opportunities. More opportunities. The phone lines are open. Give us a call. Mo and Show, Pure Mutter, I'm all for David Shaw. Just don't take Brian Hartline. Mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. I better not say it. I think a name that everybody has to keep an eye on when it comes to a head coach for the very first time, I think it's Ryan Grubb. I think he's going to be. I know Washington fans don't want to hear that, but I think when we get out of after the playoffs are over, Washington getting in there or not, I think Ryan Grubb is going to have some opportunities. And I'm looking at you, Iowa. I'm looking at you, Immaculate. If you keep if you keep Kirk Ferentz one more year, I think you might miss the opportunity of grabbing Ryan Grubb. I'm just putting that out there. Just putting that out there. Justin Lucas.
Call from
Moen,
Mr. Buckeye, the floor is yours, but can you just give me one moment, please?
Yeah, you can interrupt me, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Justin Lucas, Greg, he's not leaving because of conference realignment. I can tell you that he's leaving because that UNC board does the NC, I don't know if he meant NC, whatever, bidding, and KG doesn't get along with them. Well, I did talk about it. There is a split in the UNC board when it comes to Gusowich. It's a big split. But thank you so much for the comment, Justin Lucas. Moen, Mr. Buckeye, the floor is yours.
Well, you can certainly say Brian Hartline to UCLA. That would be very helpful to me because that would ensure it wouldn't happen. So,
whoa! My hot boards have been excellent. I've been nailing the hot boards, pretty much.
Okay, well then don't say it.
I'm not gonna. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't even looked into it. But no. My predicting games. If you want me to pick a game on the spread, yes, go the other way. Run the other way. Go ahead, Moen.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think that UCLA job would be a job that Brian Hartline would take.
Oh, okay.
West Coast, all that talent out there. That's one that scares me.
Yes, yeah, and they got a big time donor out there, big time donor.
Yeah.
Who really wanted UCLA? Well, I won't forget it. I'm sorry, Moen. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, they get a lot of NIL money to toss around too, so it's not like those kids will be going without. But I just wanted to call in and say this: Oregon State, Washington State. This is the best solution for everybody. Come up with a settlement. Everybody walk their own way. Oregon State, Washington State be independents for 2 years. Then bring everybody in the Mountain West over and just keep the Pac name. Just call it the Pac.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go grab 2 more teams. But I think you'd want to keep it West Coast. I know a lot of people are like, go grab Tulane. I don't think you want to. I think part of the reason you want to do this is keep it regional and keep travel costs low. So maybe go grab I know somebody mentioned New Mexico State, UTSA, North Texas, UTEP, someone like that that's still within that western mountain type of area to keep it kind of regional. And it's actually it'd actually be kind of cool to have a regional G5 conference like that. So I think that's the best thing for all parties. If in that 2 years Oregon State and Washington State can somehow finagle their way into another conference, great for them. But if not, at least they have a path forward. We know where they're going. We know what the future is.
Yeah. The only thing I would say, I agree with you, but I completely understand why. I got the screen up. I got the Mountain West Conference up here, and I agree with you. But I can understand why people would advocate for Gloria Nevarez to, when this gets settled down, when this thing gets official in a couple years, they get a good media contract, to give a school in Texas, a UTSA or North Texas, and a Tulane, at least give it a call and see what happens. Or first of all, you have to have the schools call you. That's how it really works. But some indirect talks at least, because getting into Texas, that might be pretty important. And then if you get into Texas, can you get into Louisiana? But I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you.
I don't think that they're going to be. I don't think Tulane's going to be available.
Yeah, you're probably
2 years.
Yeah,
they have a chance. They'll probably move up to the ACC.
Yes, sir.
When that exodus occurs. But yeah, I just wanted to call in, Greg, and let you know I think that's a great move for all parties. The Mountain West, Oregon State, Washington State. Hopefully, the Supreme Court gets in line and says, hey, come to some kind of settlement here. Oregon State, Washington State keep a little more. The 10 leaving take a little less, and everybody stays on the line for liabilities. But I think it's great. I think it's great. Bob Thompson said it last night, too. He said it was great on Big 12 Mafia. So I'm going to side with Bob Thompson on it. I think it's great, too.
Yeah, I would as well.
All right, Greg. Hey, have a good morning.
Yeah, you got it. Good morning to you. Get ready, Buckeyes. You're in for a fight, baby. You're in for a fight.
You going to send the hockey players to take some time out in the parking lot? Is that?
Oh my God! No comment. No comment. I shouldn't have said anything. Great. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep. Take it easy.
Yeah. Great call by Mr. Buckeye. All right. Boy, here we go. Yes, Ryan Grubb is an Iowa-born dude. I take him at the U of I. A lot of people would take Ryan Grubb. You are correct, Tony. You are correct. And I think Iowa might have to... Ryan Grubb, where did he... He played college football. I don't know if it's Division III. What was the town? Some town in Iowa. It's like the center of the state. I want to say Lake City. It ain't Lake City. Anyways, yes, he's not only born in Iowa, but played football in Iowa. Can't remember where it was. My brain is gone. I know I talked about it a couple months ago. Nobody wants Hartline for a head coach. Nobody wants Hartline for a head coach. I think a lot of people are going to want Hartline for a head coach. If he can recruit, if he can elevate your, you know who should get Brian Hartline for the next head coach? If things don't work out with their current head coach, is Miami of Florida, who cannot recruit, develop wide receivers to save their lives, and Notre Dame, who cannot recruit and develop wide receivers to save their lives. Offensive. You know, it's Hartline's gonna have a good job. Storm Lake, is that right? Storm Lake. Is that where he played? What did I say? Lake City? Yeah. Thank you, Jay. My brain is gone. Kenneth Evans says he's from Kingsley, Iowa. I don't think he played at... Oh, whatever. He's from Iowa. I think... thanks for doing that work, Kenneth and Jay. I just think that Kirk Ferentz... I think something's going to have to be done. If they want to get into the Ryan Grubb, I don't think they can wait a year. I do not think they can wait until 2025. That is I'm checking in on something here. I just got a message. I want to make sure. Okay, it's really nothing I can act on right now, but all right. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Jim Choi, Iowa's favorite son, Bob Stoops, is coming out of retirement to take the Iowa job. Buena Vista. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. Immaculate. I would be fine with 8-4 in the future, considering the competition. Coming in, I'm more worried about the 6-6 being the new future. Well, I can tell you, Iowa's in a lot better spot than a lot of us other Big Ten schools. But we'll talk about that in the offseason. The offseason is going to be a little depressing for this Gopher guy right here. This is going to be our most difficult off-season since PJ Fleck became the head football coach.
Call from
Mr. Pinball.
Mr. Pinball, the floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Doing real good.
How much snow on the ground up there already?
No snow. No snow yet. We did get some we got some in October, but thank God it went away. Last winter, when we got our first snowfall sometime in November, it never left. It stayed the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I have relatives, Apple Valley and other places. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes. Apple Valley. That's south. That's a little bit south metro. Yep.
Yeah, South Metro, exactly.
What's up, good sir?
I had a question. I know you try and sneak stuff by the PATC once in a while, but I think I got you this morning. I believe you referred to the Mountain West as having 10 teams twice.
That was a legitimate mistake on my part. No, I wasn't.
As a football guy, I wouldn't expect that to be twice. Do you know something?
Nope.
When
no.
are San Diego and New Mexico going to the Big 12, Greg?
No, I don't. That was me being an idiot. I've been saying Pac-10 so many times. Pac-10 versus Pac-2. No. I don't know anything. I meant to say. Whatever, Mountain West, the 12 football teams. I kept saying 10, but that was my mistake.
Right. I want you to know we listen to every word out here.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a coaching change at Iowa, are they late?
No, I don't think they're late. I don't think they're late. You know, no, I don't think they're too late. Now it depends on, if Beth Getz is sitting there and she's got target 1, target 2, target 3 in her on her table right now, and let's say they're doing an official background checks on their candidate list. No, I don't think it depends on who's on that list. I don't think they're too late.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if it means that they plan to go internal, but you're thinking it's not early enough to tell that yet?
Boy, I don't think they should go internal, but maybe.
Well, that's kind of why I was wondering about it.
No, I think Iowa's number 1 target should be Ryan Grubb.
I understand.
If he is or isn't, I have not heard, obviously, but and I don't think it's too late to get into the Ryan Grubb sweepstakes either. But I think they're going to have. I think he's taking a head coaching job after this year with Washington. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then, if I may, one more thing. I'm just checking on whether or not you've figured out my Kansas Jayhawks, or if they're still the main reason you're cooled off this year.
I'm sorry. What was that?
So I'm checking in to see if you figured out how to pick the Kansas Jayhawks games, because I know they've been contributing to your coolering this year.
Yes, they have been a massive contributor to my cooling, no question about it. I haven't figured them out. They just had another quarterback injury, right?
Yes.
But you know what? I'm cooling all over the place. I haven't figured anything out with games against the spread. This is my second year in a row I'm getting my butt kicked. So, no, I don't have anything figured out.
Yeah, I understand. But, I mean, it takes practice. You'll get there. Keep at it.
Next year, baby. Next year, I become Greg the Heater. But it ain't happening this year.
All right. Well, go Jayhawks. Thanks, Greg. Great
you got it, buddy. Go Jayhawks. Thanks for the call, Pinball. Hoodin Ninja 4 Pac-2 survives if after this 2-year deal they instead take top 6 non-Mountain West Conference and wait for those members to peel off without penalty, right? Well, no, at this point, yes, but according to the report from Ross Dellenger today, the Mountain West schools, Gloria Navarez is going to get the okay to fully negotiate with Oregon State, Washington State, and it looks like there's going to be a penalty inside that contract with that long-term commitment that if Oregon State, Washington State tries to create, hold on.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, can you hold for just 1 second, sir?
Of course.
Thank you so very much. So if Washington State and Oregon State tries to create a Frankenstein G5 conference, just take the top Mountain West schools, take some non-Mountain West schools and create a conference, they're going to be penalized and that money will go to the Mountain West schools that weren't picked up if this actually becomes official. And I think it will. I think when it gets to this point, the train is well down the tracks. So I don't think that's where we're heading. I think we're heading to at least a 14-team conference, elevated G5 conference starting in 2026. That includes Oregon State, Washington State, and the other 12 Mountain West football schools. Immaculate, Mr. Hawkeye, the floor is yours.
Yeah, first off, I agree with you. I know there's some people saying, well, they could take these certain teams from the Mountain West, but I don't think that Gloria Navarro is taking part in that kind of conversation.
No, she's not. and
an
it's,
all or nothing thing. It may not be optimal. It may not be the absolute best, but that's realignment for you. That's it's
Yeah.
not always the absolute best
yeah,
ending. It's just kind of you got to look at it all and figure how it works out. And I don't think she's taken that agreement if it means she has to leave schools behind, because there's going to be litigation that follows, right? Look,
Yeah.
people thought that wasn't real when you'd say, oh, well, if you try and dissolve the conference or you do this, you do that, there'll be lawsuits afterwards. And people are like, oh, that's bull. Well, look at Oregon State and Washington State situation.
yeah,
It's a prime example of why the Mountain West would probably just merge completely with Oregon State and Washington State. And it would just, even though it might not be the optimal value, it's the optimal situation for these people to not lose their heads, because no one wants to deal with this type of situation again. And
yeah.
it's probably not too hard to talk Oregon State and Washington State into taking all 12 if it means they're not going to have to face this type of lawsuit situation again.
Yes. Good point. Great point.
So the whole Mountain West is probably going to join them in 2026. I still think that there's some small chance that they might get another offer elsewhere. But my whole thought on them getting into the Big 12 or something like that before was to keep it from getting to this point that it's at now. Now that we're at this point, some of the leverage for getting that is gone. You know, now that it's gone to court, now that they've got the situation as it is. It's already been going for 6 months of holding up CFP. So if nothing else, it's a good backup plan. And, I don't know, maybe they could pull like 4 schools out of Texas to join it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too far away. And then they would be at, 18 schools? Maybe get 2 schools out of Texas to join it for 16. Not too bad.
I think that might work. I mean, I can see it either way. I'm on the fence on that. Keeping it at the 14 or going for 2 Texas schools. It depends on what Texas schools.
That's some good value there.
Yeah, there is.
You could look at UCSA. You could
Yeah.
look at Texas State's doing well. I mean, these aren't names that most people would think of and be like, wow, that's impressive. But really all you need them to do is give you a location in Texas.
Yeah.
And then to play good football. Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely viable. I think that's what could make it to a 16-team conference.
Yeah, and if you're going to add any more, it has to have something that brings some value. And that's why I say we'll look at Texas then.
Yeah.
That's going to help you get into a football-loving market. And you're bringing some good brands, for a G5.
Yeah.
There's good brands in the Mountain West. They just don't have viewership out there. It's the same problem the Pac had, but worse.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I do like the idea of them eventually moving east. Otherwise, I don't know how good of a deal you can get, because you've got the programs, but you don't have the viewership. So I like the idea of them, and I've been real careful about this because I don't want to say too much about the AAC, but they can get AAC teams. There's no Gore there. It's a lot cheaper to get the AAC team to the Mountain West than it is Mountain West teams to the AAC. In the past, I only thought about maybe like a full type of merger between Mountain West and AAC, but that's a lot of schools. So, if they can pull some Texas schools, I don't know about anything more than that.
Yeah.
I don't think Memphis would want to come do that. Maybe. I don't know how serious they are. I mean, but, with them building a new stadium, that would be a good brand to have. So, anyways, I do think it's going to be a full merger with the Mountain West. In terms of Iowa coaching, there was an interview. Ferentz brought up retirement, and it was not asked about. It just kind of came out of his head.
Oh, really?
It wasn't like he was retiring. It just like, oh, well, we'll think about that later in the off-season retirement type stuff, and it just kind of slipped out. It doesn't mean he's retiring, but I do think it means the thought is there that he might do it. I mean, this is a rough year.
Yeah.
And he has to know what he's going into. He's got Washington coming to town next year. He's got who else? And they're going to UCLA. So I think he might be thinking about it, but we're not going to know about that until after the season's over. And that's tough too, because as some were saying, the carousel is getting started right now.
Yeah.
And without an announcement from him, now maybe he's told them quietly, and so they're kind of behind the scenes working on it. But the scenario that I do like if he stays is them getting a star offensive coordinator come in on an agreement of 2 years and the program is yours. Focus on our offense, rebuild it, make it into what you would want if you were the head coach so that you can then pass it on to someone else that you like, but you'll be 2 years under Ferentz as he runs the whole program. Because, like it or not, that offense got better once the announcement came out about Brian, and supposedly Kirk got more involved with the offense at that point in time. And it's gotten a little bit better. So just even the idea that he's not going to be there has made that offense work better.
Yeah.
It's the damnedest thing. But I think if you bring in the right guy, even if it's under Kirk for a couple of years, maybe they could have some success to get him out the door and, go out on a positive note. I don't really like the idea of him leaving this year because of the negativity of it. I think he does deserve better than that. The problem is the future and what it holds for the Big Ten. So we need for him to stay, we need a pretty strong offensive coordinator. So like you said, Grubb, you wouldn't mind coming for 2 years, be offensive coordinator and fix this offense, and then knowing that he's the guy take over in after 2 more seasons or so. I'd say great. But that's also why I brought up Sean Lewis from Colorado.
Yeah.
Because he was a tight end of Wisconsin, so he likes tight end play. Hello, this is Iowa. And people may not realize it because it's Iowa, so they think it's a crap job, but it's not. Because every coach in the game knows if you get in at Iowa, you've got to do a lot to get removed. I mean, you can sit there at that job and be very secure with high pay. You just got to figure out recruiting. But with NIL and the transfer portal, that's a lot better here in the future. So
I don't know.
That's where I think.
I love people disagreeing with each other. I love it. This is why we do the show. But man, my patience is wearing on me when it comes to people declaring that some of these Big Ten jobs are crap jobs, or some of these SEC jobs are crap. Man,
people like to poo on the Big Ten, and I get it.
I know, I get it too. But man, the money you make.
From a coach's perspective, they are good jobs.
Yeah.
Sorry, they are.
And I try to keep saying this. I don't think people believe me, but take a look at the Big Ten West schools and their bowl records for the last 7 years. Take a look at their non-conference record. They get beat up by Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. Everybody does. But man, take a look at the Big Ten West schools' record against Maryland, Rutgers, and Indiana, and then take a look at their bowl records. And they're out of conference. They're right there with everybody else except for like the toughest division in the SEC. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to when there's no Big Ten divisions is we don't have to hear Big Ten West anymore because we're just one conference.
In some weird way, I kind of like it. Like everyone's always just on it, and it's just kind of like, yep, just rain it down. It doesn't matter because it actually doesn't matter what people say about it.
Yeah.
And so once you kind of get used to it and you get tough skin to it, it's kind of like I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much. Like I just sit there and go, really? Okay, sure, whatever. You would love to be part of that division if you could.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but the people don't understand, like, the division has evolved to play against itself.
Yeah.
And where most schools' offense is prioritized because, for whatever reasons, defense has been prioritized in the Big Ten West.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It just is.
Well,
And
there's so many defensive players going from Big West teams into the NFL draft. And so it's easier to recruit these defensive players to the Big Ten West because you say, hey, look what's happening here. I mean, even Minnesota, Antoine Winfield Jr., incredible college football player. Now he's an incredible NFL player. It was easier for Minnesota now to bring the next great safety in, Tyler Nubin. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. Iowa linebackers, Iowa everything. But you know what I'm saying? You get a history of getting good defensive players. You keep recruiting them. Now, unfortunately, there's teams in the Big Ten West who can't get or develop a decent quarterback, so we have a hard time recruiting quarterbacks. But anyways, like Kenneth Evans in the comments section, I watched Kansas wax Illinois this year. Yes, you did. And you also saw TCU beat Michigan. But I can go through a long list of Big Ten hammering Big 12 schools. I mean, I remember a couple years ago when Minnesota Gophers played West Virginia. No offense, West Virginia fans who are going to watch or are listening to this, are going to watch it later. But there was a lot of Big 12 fans chirping and everything. That game wasn't even competitive. It was on a bad football field. But Minnesota pushed the Mountaineers all over the field. That we were so much bigger than they were. We beat Auburn on a January 1st game. Gophers, PJ Fleck. We beat Georgia Tech, Syracuse. Every single one of these games, the Gophers, a middling Big Ten school, were pushing their opponents around. So yes, you have speed, but you also have size. I'm telling you, people I think in Washington and Oregon are going to come in here, and UCLA and USC, and they're going to slice through us all. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while because it's a different game. And when you play that schedule every week, you got to play Wisconsin, you got to play Iowa, then you got to play Penn State. It wears on you, man. It wears on you. This is a conference with a lot of big guys in it. Immaculate, you can go ahead and finish the call.
Yeah, I was just going to say, someone had, made that point about Illinois and Kansas. I think Illinois last year would have beat this Kansas team this year. They lost a lot on the defensive line. They lost a lot, and they did not replace it.
Yes.
And, but last year's team, I definitely think they would have beat Kansas. That last year's team kind of came out of nowhere and was like, what the hell, is Illinois playing football again?
Yeah.
But they do that. They do draw in good defensive linemen at Illinois. If there's one thing that they're known for doing on occasion, it's defensive linemen. And they had some other parts around that team. They, good quarterback play. It was a good team last year. They made a run until I think they fell apart at the end.
They fell apart at the end. Yep.
Yeah, but they were making a run for it. I thought that they were going to be in the championship game. So, that's just how it goes. Like that team would have matched up better, but it is what it is. But it's just an odd thing in the Big Ten West, and I get why people take shots, and it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it is.
Those schools are doing good.
It's part of the fun. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So that's my hope, though, is with the division going away. It's kind of seemed like a lot of Iowa fans. What are you doing for me today? They're not looking into the future. It's like, oh God, we're doing great. We're going to go to the championship game this year. What are people complaining about? It's like, well, we're complaining about next year because we've got Watt coming to town. We've got UCLA to go to. We've got more realignment coming, and we're not just going to have a whole bunch of West Division games anymore. We'll still have 3.
Yeah.
For Iowa, we got
Yes.
lucky with that.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the same. So, yeah, we need to change our mentality, and that's why I like the idea of Sean Lewis. His biggest problem at Colorado was he didn't have an offensive line. Well, yeah, no problem. We got you solved there. So I'll take Sean Lewis' offense. Like when he was at Kent State, he did great. He's got a good mind for it. So that's what I'm looking for. I don't know. I don't got much else for that, but
all right.
I'm hoping that we get good on that. So you have yourself a good one, man. Appreciate
you got it, man. Thanks, Immaculate. Okay, let's recap the live show, Breakfast, PATC Breakfast. Big news, breaking news. Oregon State, Washington State are inching closer and closer to getting some type of scheduling deal with the Mountain West schools. 7+1 for the Mountain West schools. 7 conference games plus a game with Oregon State, Washington State. For the next 2 years, Washington State and Oregon State will have their own TV contract for their home games, away games on the CBS Sports Networks and Fox. Washington State and Oregon State's away games with Mountain West schools, the networks are going to provide a little bit more money. Those games are going to be distributed among the 12 Mountain West football schools. And then it looks like in 2026, looks like we're on the pathway to a full merger. 14 football schools, Washington State and Oregon State, and all 12 Mountain West schools. Looks like they're going to be an elevated, in my opinion, an elevated G5 conference. Now, there is, in the article this morning from Ross Dellenger at Yahoo Sports, there's a part in there that talks about there's a penalty to Oregon State and Washington State if this deal gets done officially with the Mountain West. That Gloria Navarez, the Mountain West commissioner, has made sure that there's a penalty for Washington State and Oregon State if they try to create, in my words, a Frankenstein conference, the G5 conference, and only take part of the Mountain West schools, along with some other schools, possibly in the AAC, to form a G5 conference, that there'll be a penalty laid at the feet of Washington State and Oregon State, and that money would go to the Mountain West schools that were not brought into the conference. Immaculate brought up a great point. Don't think that Washington State and Oregon State have the appetite to be cutting off half of the Mountain West schools because of what they just went through. I do not think they want the headache. So I think the train is on the tracks. It's heading down towards a full merger in a couple years. The 12 Mountain West schools with Washington State and Oregon State in football. We'll see what happens with the other sports of the Beavers and the Cougars. The phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Get yourself notified because we can come on live at any time. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, very late at night. We've done it all here at Peek Around the Corner. We go where the story goes. Today, it was Ross Dellenger, Yahoo Sports, breaking news. Washington State and Oregon State are inching closer to a full-time merger. We also talked about the article that came out, North Carolina, WRAL, Mike Gusowich, North Carolina, UNC Chapel Hill's chancellor, Gusowich, looks like he's on the verge of taking the Michigan State's president's job, and it's not official. I don't know if he's made the decision. That report came out a couple days ago, and now Chancellor Gusowich himself has talked about it today, this morning. And again, North Carolina, if Gusowich leaves to become the new president of Michigan State, the replacement, the new president at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that is a big time indicator of what North Carolina is going to do in the years ahead when it comes to realignment, because there is a faction. There is a separation. There's a fracture within the Board of Regents. I've talked about it. Not just the Board of Regents, but the donors. There's a fracture right down the middle and what their future should look like. And this is a harbinger. This is the canary in the coal mine. Gusowich, he's a polarizing figure. I'm not sure if North Carolina is not aligned. They're not aligned. They do not have alignment when it comes to the decision of realignment in the next few years, as we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. So whoever replaces Gusowich, if Gusowich leaves, that's going to be a strong indicator and where things are going for North Carolina. Gusowich was pro Big Ten. So is Bubba Cunningham. We've talked about it. We talked about it at least 6 weeks ago. And on a live show. And now there's reports that Gusowich is interested in, right now, today's the number one target for Michigan State University. We'll see what happens. Richard L., any idea how much of a penalty that would be? No, I don't. I have no idea. Let me check a comment here. Just let me check on something real quick. No, I don't. It doesn't say it. It does not say it in the article. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I just want to make sure that this is not actionable here. Hold on. As you know, once in a while, I get information that I can act on during the show. So we'll see what happens. I just sent off a little note. Yeah, the whole playoff thing, I think that's going to happen at some point. We shall see. Where there's a conference playoff, a 14 playoff, they're going to own that playoff. They're going to make a whole lot more money. When you're growing up to 18, 20, over 20 teams for the conference, I think they're going to have more than two go. They're going to have four go into some type of playoff. We've talked about that as well. Okay, I think we're going to shut down this live show. We've covered this breaking story pretty good this morning. Ross Dellenger, Yahoo Sports, The Athletic, and others reporting Washington State and Oregon State are closing in, inching closer and closer to doing a deal, a scheduling alliance deal with the Mountain West, with the potential, and it looks like a full-time merger 2026. And this whole thing could come together in the next several days. So this isn't something that might happen next month, 6 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now. It looks like, according to Yahoo Sports reports, it looks like it could happen in the next several days. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the decision of Chancellor, North Carolina Chancellor Mike Gusowich. Is he leaving for the Big Ten? Is he leaving for Michigan State as their next president? If he does so, the implications we're going to cover that story. We are going to cover that story and everything else in college football. Before you leave the chat, please smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell on your way out. I appreciate it. I appreciate the great comments, the great phone calls, and the generous donations. Thank you so much for coming into the PATC breakfast. And keep your head on a swivel. We might have to come on live once again today. There's a lot of stuff percolating in college football. A lot of unusual stuff coming in from all different angles. So keep your head on a swivel. Until next time. From all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.